Hi, welcome to our presentation, Taking Aim, Creating Asynchronous Interactive Modules for Library Instruction. I'm Susanna Smith, Assistant Professor of Library and Information Science and Instructional Designer.
And my name is Caroline Evergreen. I'm an Assistant Professor of Library and Information Science and a Reference and Instruction Librarian.
And my name is Melanie Vincent, and I am an Assistant Professor of Library and Information Science and a Reference and Instruction Librarian at GHC.
So what is the AIM project? The AIM project is, at its most elemental, a series of asynchronous interactive modules designed to teach students key information literacy skills without the need to have a librarian visit one of their classes. The modules offer a graded certificate that can be turned in, which gives teaching faculty the flexibility to add the content without cutting any critical in-class time. We also wanted content that would tie in with our library information literacy objectives and give us a better way to assess student progress in those areas. So, how did this project come about, and where do we hope to take it in the future?
So why the AIM project? Well, part of the reason for this project was that we saw a few needs in our community, and as the information literacy group, we wanted to come up with a way to meet those needs. A few of our goals were finding a way to reach students at each GHC campus, serving our e-learning community, and equalizing our outreach to all disciplines. Especially during the pandemic, many of our students were abruptly transferred to an online format, and we didn't have the staffing to do traditional one-shot instruction at all 5 of our campuses at the time. Normally, we would provide a significant number of English 1101 and 1102 one-shot sessions, but perhaps not as many in STEM or health sciences. This asynchronous interactive module project provided a way for us to get into more of those classes and reach more students asynchronously. So how do we meet the needs? Well, once the team knew this was a need that had to be filled, then the question became how. Videos were good, but often had to be recreated for each individual one such session since they were class specific. Screenshots could change over time, and even some of our images and graphics were often recreated by multiple librarians because one person at one campus might not necessarily know what another was teaching. But by focusing on creating these comprehensive modules, we were able to standardize some of the instruction we were doing and create just one set of graphics, one video, and one module.
We envisioned these modules as a supplement to our other forms of instruction. Part of meeting our students and faculty needs included providing instructional materials they can easily access. We are not invited into every classroom, nor do we have enough staffing to visit every single class. These online modules allow faculty members to include information literacy instruction in their courses without a librarian entering the classroom. It also allows us to use the time we spend with students in the classroom wisely. Instead of instructing students on the basics of a citation or how to evaluate a source, we have more time to help them think through their topics and locate sources. These asynchronous modules also help us better serve our online student population, which is our second highest population of all of our campuses. We can embed our modules into asynchronous courses. The asynchronous modules give our online students access to instruction at their convenience. Not every student can meet with us during business hours, and these asynchronous modules allow the students the flexibility needed to become information literate.
Once we decided what was needed and what we wanted to do, we had to sell that idea to all the stakeholders. The other GHC librarians and our library dean were on board right away. They saw the potential for outreach and the benefits to our students immediately. And we also saw that in the long run, the modules could free up some much needed time for other projects. The college administration was also surprisingly easy to get on board. We first presented on our initial module at our Center for Teaching and Learning Symposium. During our poster session, the president and provost stopped by. After we shared our ideas and talked about our dreams, they were both enthusiastic and encouraged us to keep working. Getting faculty excited has been a little more challenging. Our first module on APA citations was our pilot because after several conversations with our health science faculty, we knew there was a critical need there. So with their support, we moved forward and have had great success with it, embedding it into all of their introductory courses. We hope to use this same model of partnering with faculty to express a particular need as we create new modules and roll them out. So once we started getting folks on board, we then started looking at how we wanted to design and build the modules, starting with our primary considerations. And here there were 4 main areas we wanted to address from the very beginning. We wanted to make sure that whatever tools we used were ADA compliant. We spent a lot of time with screen readers and best practices to ensure that all students would be able to access the content. We wanted to have graded quizzes so that we could tie these modules to our college assessment and for our SACS assessment. Third, a key part of that graded portion also meant that we needed to make sure that any assessment content we did create was secured behind our college firewall. Finally, we wanted our modules to be free and, as much as possible, shareable under a Creative Commons license. With that in mind, we made sure to create our own content or use content labeled for reuse.
Taking our primary considerations into account, we set out to choose the tools for the modules we wanted to create. Since we wanted the content to be open source and easily accessible, we decided to host the modules on Google Sites. We can host as many sites as we need for free, and the tool is easy to learn. The use of Google Sites also allows for our content to be open and easily shared with other libraries and librarians. Once we decided on a hosting platform for our content, we needed a way to assess students' understanding of the material. We looked into several different tools, but decided to utilize LibWizard to make self-check quizzes and the final certificate quizzes. LibWizard is a tool we already had access to, so it came at no extra cost to the library. Also, the data collected through the quizzes is safely secured behind GHC's single sign-on, so we can ensure our students' privacy. After we put together a module and the quizzes that go along with it, we also create a corresponding LibGuide. The LibGuides provide students with additional instruction on the module topic, as well as supplemental resources they can use to build their understanding of a topic. LibGuides are a tool that our students are already familiar with and can easily access from our library webpage. The use of LibGuides also allows students who don't complete the module to utilize the same content.
In addition to the tools and the formatting of the modules, there were some design considerations that guided how we wanted the modules to look when we were done. User experience was, of course, a big one. We wanted the overall look and the feel of it to be cohesive without needing to spend hours matching colors and text types like we have been known to do in LibGuides. Ease of use was another consideration. We wanted to have consistency with the layout and formatting so that users would be able to navigate between the pages, the self-checks, and the final quiz easily. Another fantastic thing about using Google Sites was our ability to create and reuse those templates, allowing us to collaborate with multiple editors at the same time and ensure consistency. Timeline. So this is how you'll think it will go. Anyone who's taken on a big project might find this timeline familiar. It's just 3 easy steps, right? Create, edit, and publish. However, as we all know, the process can sometimes be a little more complex than that, which brings us to how it actually goes. Rather than a step-by-step process with a clear starting point and a clear ending point, it's much more of an iterative process. For our team, this meant we spent at least a week and sometimes several weeks in each of these sections, creating, refining, using, usability, feedback, revising, and publishing. Sometimes the parts of the plan that seem the most straightforward require the most coordination. Creation can sometimes feel like the easiest step because you're just putting ideas together and seeing what works. But refining those ideas, evaluating for usability, and then getting feedback from colleagues and users and revising all take time as well. Often we went through multiple cycles of this before publishing. And even after publishing, there are often a few little changes we find we need to make.
And that brings us to implementation. We launched our first module, APA 7, in early 2021. About 6 months later, we released MLA 9. We chose these as our first two modules for two reasons. First, we knew they would be time-intensive and challenging to create. And second, we knew there was a huge need for the content. The most time-consuming part of the citation modules has been the creation of the companion LibGuides that Melanie mentioned. These standalone tools are for all things citation. The LibGuides include not only citation examples, but formatting and style guidelines. In the past, we've been sending students out to other school citation help sites, and our goal here was to put together something solid that is also under our control. Since its launch, the APA module has been attempted over 1,200 times with an average score of 80%. The addition of the APA module to all the health science courses significantly increased usage, and we've received positive feedback from our faculty. MLA launched this spring and has been used nearly 200 times already. The average score there is 69, which is lower than we hoped. We plan to dive a little deeper into the assessment, perhaps comparing it to our APA tool, and see where the challenges are. We'll also get feedback from more humanities faculty. Sometimes a fresh set of eyes will see something that we don't. Then we'll tweak the content and hopefully improve the average score.
As we completed our first modules, we undertook a separate project of revising our information literacy objectives. During that revision, we realized that we would need to rethink some aspects of our modules if we wanted them to stay parallel. We aligned our ILOs with the overall college assessment plan and reworked our plan for creating additional modules and updating the ones we had already created. For instance, we changed our source evaluation ILOs, so we are currently in the process of adding additional content to that module. We knew from the beginning that our AIM modules would require routine updates as we learn from our mistakes and update content when it becomes obsolete. Updating the modules has been successful because we widened the group of people helping to create and revise the modules. While this project started out with 3 librarians, all librarians and a couple subject faculty members are pitching in to help with the project moving forward. We have talked a lot about the modules we have created, and you are probably curious what they look like. So I'm going to turn the presentation over to Caroline so she can give a quick show and tell.
Thank you, Melanie. Now we're going to give you a brief look into our modules and where to find them. If you'd like to follow along on your own browser or phone, you can scan this QR code that pops up on the screen. Now, that QR code should take you to the page of our Library Resources for Faculty LibGuide. This page contains the links to each of our asynchronous interactive modules. As we scroll down, you can see our APA and MLA modules, our search strategies keywords module, and our source evaluation module. Today, I'm going to give you a tour of the module we've been talking about the most, our APA 7 module. Once we've clicked into the module, you can see we have the navigation here on the left-hand side, easily viewable from wherever you are in the module. We have the module objective at the top of the screen on the home page, followed by instructions on how to progress and navigate through this module. On each page, we also have a "Why is this important?" section to help students contextualize the information, followed by some citation elements or relevant information for the page we're in, some examples for students to review, along with a self-check quiz at the bottom for each of them to test their knowledge before they progress on to the next section of the module. Each section is structured pretty similarly for consistency, but some feature videos rather than screenshots. And some might feature a combination of images and text to help students understand the information. After each section is completed, the students eventually progress to a quiz at the very end of the module. This is where they are able to fill in their information and progress forward to a series of questions about each section. Upon completion of the quiz, the final page will display a certificate that they can download and submit to their professor for completion credit.
Thanks for the tour, Caroline. Now we want to switch gears and talk about our plans for the AIM modules moving forward. This includes what we have learned from the project so far and our dreams for the future. I want to start by talking about what we have learned from challenges we have faced with the AIM modules. As with any new undertaking, we ran into some challenges along the way, but they allowed us to improve our modules over time. Through collaborating with faculty members, we learned about their wants and needs regarding our modules. First, we needed certificates, so students could provide proof to professors who were requiring the modules as part of a class. The certificates proved to be a challenge because it was a newer feature for the SpringShare product. We had to work with SpringShare to get the certificate to generate correctly. We don't include the student's exact grade on the certificate, but some professors wanted to use the modules as a quiz grade in their course. We can see grades on our end, but we needed permission from students to share their grades with professors. After discussing options with our registrar, we achieved this by adding a checkbox to the quiz, asking for permission to share grades with instructors. Remember, these quiz grades are located behind the institution's single sign-on, so we can keep student information safe. Another challenge that popped up was the time frame. We quickly learned that the process for creating a module would take longer than we originally thought. We had to build in time for multiple rounds of proofreading and usability tests. Of course, we are also having to build in time for updates to the modules we already completed based on our changes to the library ILOs. Lastly, I want to mention training. Bringing new people into the project meant finding ways to quickly get them up to speed. We started this project as a 3-person team, and those team members have changed a couple of times over the past 2 years. We also brought more GHC librarians in on the project. We have helped mitigate some of the training time by creating templates for the Google Sites pages, as well as the quizzes that we use. Not only does this help with training, but it helps with consistency and saves time when starting new modules. One of the wonderful things about this project is that it has allowed us to grow as librarians and gain new skills while also directly helping to improve our students' understanding of information literacy topics.
As Melanie mentioned, we have had some challenges, but we've also had some major successes that have helped solidify this project as a worthwhile endeavor for all of us. We had so much positive faculty feedback, pretty much from the beginning. Susanna had some existing relationships with English faculty that really helped us get traction in getting professors to assign the more recent modules as an extra credit assignment. We also noticed a trend that once we got into one of the professors' classes, they often wanted to assign the module in multiple classes of theirs. Another success of the modules was that it did help us get into previously unentered classrooms. Traditionally, we provide the most instruction across campuses to our English 1101 and 1102 classes. But these modules have made their way into STEM classes, business classes, and the social sciences. A particularly proud moment was that we ended up with our modules embedded in all health science students' classes, college-wide, just in our first year. So we're very excited to see where we go next. Our final success was our personal satisfaction with the vision and execution of our modules. When we look at these today, obviously we still see a few things we want to change or sections we want to expand on, but overall we're very proud of what we've made and so happy to see that both the content and the design and usage of these modules aligned with our initial vision for the project. Our final success is best summed up in this quote by one of our faculty members. This was before we had even launched the modules, back when we were just having faculty go through and try to test them and break them if they could. We were just very encouraged, and the faculty really did follow through on their word, and they have fully utilized these modules for our students.
So what's our end goal with these modules? Sure, getting this content in front of students is fantastic and really important, but is there anything else we can do with them? Well, in the immediate future, the goal is more modules. We just rolled out keyword searching and source evaluation. And of course, we've already started revisions on both of those. At the same time, we're working on 2 additional modules, Chicago 17 and Introduction to Library Resources. Also in the pipeline are the research process, source types, source literacy, and academic integrity. Once all of these are done, they will cover all of our information literacy objectives, which leads to the really big dream. As I mentioned before, we presented a poster session about our initial APA module at our 2021 CETL Symposium. During our conversations with the provost and president, I mentioned offhandedly that I would love to see an information literacy certificate that students could earn after successful completion of all of these modules, and something like, wouldn't it be great if something could go on their transcript? Maybe that was the wrong thing to say, because they were super enthusiastic about that idea, encouraged us to do that, just that very thing. And so we hope to start deeper conversations about that in the not too distant future.
That wraps up our presentation on the AIM modules that we've been creating. Thanks for viewing. Feel free to use our contact information listed on the screen to reach out with any questions. We hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.